The Metanet is an interesting term, but I think the best way to understand it's something that kind of forms as you're using it.
What I wanted for you to elaborate on is that Teranode can run on AWS at 1 million transactions per second. So that's quite a big mouthful. Why is that important and why should we care about that, Jake?
So the fact that we're able to do that on the cloud means we can do it anywhere. And that means that we can have node companies deploy either on cloud or on-prem and become part of the network and compete and really grow what we're trying to accomplish, which is the utilization of microtransactions. So now that we can do 1 million transactions a second, we've proved that we can use microtransactions on a global scale. And that's what we're after. The next step is to get overlay services going and the SPV wallet and start utilizing SPV in as many ways as we can, and then get some proofs of concept that start utilizing Teranode. So Teranode will be testing as a listening node very soon. And then after that, it'll be mining blocks on the blockchain. And we want to be able to hit the ground running in terms of utilizing that capacity once it's available.
Well, let's talk a minute about overlays and having them run on the Amazon Marketplace or available on the Amazon Marketplace. Can you give us some examples of actually what are overlays and how will businesses be able to use them when they're available on the marketplace?
Sure. So if you think about it from the perspective of a transaction, so a transaction has inputs, it has outputs, and then you can organize those inputs and outputs in various ways. We call that a transaction template. And so if you take a transaction template and let's say you're using it as a token or something like that, you want that token to be able to do something, has some kind of value. And in order to utilize that, you have to have some kind of a service that understands it. So rather than having to have the node deal with everything, you take a slice of the network and you have kind of an overlay or a sub-network that deals with those specific transaction types, and we call that an overlay.
A really easy to understand example, like how a business would be able to use this. I think an example you gave me was how you could easily search for pounds, or you could search for GBP transactions or something like this.
Yeah, if you think about it in terms of a central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So certain entities would understand what a pound is. So you have entities in the UK, they would be using digital pounds. And so they would understand what that transaction type is. And then what you can do is you can have that interoperable with other types of CBDCs. And so you get the full view of the blockchain there, but where the overlay comes in is that specific type of transaction.
And so all of this, Jake, the partnership with AWS, all of this talk about overlays, it's all laying the groundwork for the Metanet. Can you just elaborate on that statement and talk about how you're making all of these adjustments and all of these things help bring the Metanet to life?
So you start out with the blockchain, and the blockchain depends on IPv6 because you need P2P interaction, and you can only do that with IPv6 because it avoids using things like NAT or network address translation. You can talk directly from one entity to another. And then if you have those two things and you start building things with microtransactions and overlays, then you start to form these semantic relationships, and that's what the Metanet is.
Jake, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure learning from you, and I'm really happy to see you here in Zurich. Thank you.
Great to see you, Becky. Thank you.